You might have heard the United States dollar being referred to as the world's reserve currency. At the same time, you might be wondering, why are most exports and imports processed in dollars? And in recent times, a conversation has gained momentum among countries, especially those in Asia and Africa, on the need to deliberately reduce dependency on the dollar for international trade. Well, today we explore how the dollar found itself being used by countries as a major trade currency. The dollar's widespread use started in the mid-1940s in the aftermath of World War II. In July 1944, representatives of 44 countries met in Bretton Woods, a village in USA's northeastern state of New Hampshire. The delegates met to agree on how to finance their respective countries' economy and rebuilding after the devastating effects of World War II. South Africa, Liberia, Egypt, and Ethiopia were the African countries in the talks, which also had the US, China, the UK, France, Belgium, among others. After 3 weeks of negotiations, the delegates agreed on the establishment of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD. The two institutions' main objectives was to offer financing to member countries. The IMF was designed to offer short-term loans to countries in economic crisis, while IBRD was to offer loans for the reconstruction of countries affected by war and also financing the less developed nations. The IMF was empowered to maintain a system of fixed exchange rates centered on the US dollar and gold. In other words, each IMF member country was required to peg the value of their currency on the dollar. IMF also accepted gold from member countries as loan repayment. The crisis lender, which draws its funds from members' savings, also sold gold to countries in need. The US dollar was the currency for such transactions, with an ounce of gold priced at $35 at the time. Countries preferred storing their money in the form of gold because the precious metal does not depreciate in value. In 1971, the then US President Richard Nixon suspended the conversion of gold into dollars. At the time, more than 120 countries had already joined the IMF as members. And by 1973, countries were exchanging their currencies with the US dollar, which was relatively stable. And progressively, the dollar gained prominence, with many countries world over using it as a trade currency. Due to its widespread use, it became the reserve currency for many nations. A reserve currency is a foreign currency held by central banks in large quantities. Countries hold reserves for several reasons, including to withstand economic shocks, pay for imports, service debts, and moderate the value of the domestic currency. The Atlantic Council says the dollar represents 58% of the value of foreign reserve holdings worldwide today. It also accounts for more than 50% of foreign trade globally. And now, several countries, including Ethiopia, Seychelles, China, and the United Arab Emirates, have signed separate currency swap deals to reduce dollar dependency.